during 7 days. On the dinner, my hosts gave me special gifts. They paid for my new leg, for my new prosthesis. In the best orthopedic center in Scandinavia. I go in city is Uppsala, if I remember correctly. They made my new leg, the perfect technique, 3D printer, 3D scanner. Great. After that, I returned in my city, in Sarajevo. One day, I walking on the street. I heard, I don't know, behind on me is my foot with my shoes. I broke the new leg. A lot of effort I back in my home. I calling my friend in Sweden. Hello, Niaz is here. And tell him what's happened. Don't worry, please. Sweden is serious country. Your leg is in current period. Just call express mail and return in Sweden. Okay. Next page. Side of line said to me, "It's not possible. I cannot bring your teeth in Sweden." Maybe it's better translate is dental prosthesis. He thinks that's dental prosthesis. I bring him to tell me I bring all the things in Sweden: alcohol, sexual aid, drugs, cigarettes, but never in my life I bring in Sweden someone thief. Please, I tried to continue conversation. Is not, no chance, no way. After the 5 minutes, I continue the rest of my sentence. It's not crime that prosthesis you me. It's for leg prosthesis. Oh, why you didn't say that's leg? Of course, I bring your leg in Sweden. Come on, come to bus station for 10 minutes. I go in Sweden. Thanks God, that problem is fixed. I like smiling on the face of people. It was some of introduce, and I want to start with my official presentation today. Okay. It's a topic, my presentation for today, violence or no violence in sport. It's one part. The second part is prevention of violence in sport. Violence in sport, both and out of field, has been considered a social problem. The second part is prevention of violence in sport. It's already pointed out the need that those life skills which prevent violence in sport are to be learned by young people and thus taught by adults. It's a history of violence in life, in sport, etc. Sigmund Ginsberg in the study della distanza di Giustiniano, la notizia di il mondo di oggi. Is that correct? Read on Italian. Yeah.
It's good?
Yeah. Thank you. It's part of his book. The so-called blood sports were popular with the ancient Greeks and Roman Empire. That was the regular occurrence in the games among mice and asses. In the next few of slides, I want to show the sum of most violent incident in sports history. This young man is Patrick Kane, silver medalist on NHL hockey player. It's a very bizarre situation. On the end, is result is violence. young man and his cousin attacked the cab driver because he did not have the proper 20 cents in change that he requested. This is one of the most popular violence, Zinedine Zidane versus Materazzi in 2006 World Cup final. It was a creative way to get his attention and it took some pain in the process. Zidane does not regret his decision. Result on the end of this game is France is lost final on penalty kicks. This is one case with a bizarre reason. It's on goal on the World Cup. I want to show you some short video in the relation of this case. Can you start it, please?
Next slide.
No.
This one.
Yeah.
Let's take 2 seconds.
Okay.
Oh.
It was the first time the United States was given the opportunity to host a beautiful game. To this day, it remains the most attended World Cup of all time, with an average attendance of 69,000 people per match, and it was not short of storylines.
From Maradona's failed drug test to Baggio skying his PK to give Brazil their 4th World Cup. Welcome, guys. This is Clan Pack FC, and today we'll be telling the story that surpasses them all. Brutal assassination of the anchor of the Colombian defense, Andres Escobar. Colombian morale was high as they came into the World Cup as one of the favorites, boosting a golden generation with the likes of Carlos Valderrama and Faustino Esprilla. After topping their qualifications with an emphatic 5-0 thumping of 1990 World Cup finalist Argentina in Buenos Aires, the people of Colombia started to buy in to a successful 1994 World Cup run for their nation.
This superb qualification run leading up to the World Cup caused many to tip them to win it all, including Pelé. This Colombian team gave a whole nation hope, which at the time was crippled with corruption, drug violence, and poverty. However, things did not start as planned with a 3-1 defeat at eventual group winners Romania. The Colombian spirit remained high as their next game came against footballing minnows, the United States of America, who just days before recorded their first World Cup point in over 40 years in a draw against Switzerland. The Colombians had a scare when the Americans hit the post in the early minutes, but moments later, things became even worse as a hopeful American cross took an unlucky deflection from the outstretched blade of Andres Escobar, leaving the goalkeeper and all of Colombia watching as it rolled into the back of the net. It would be a mistake that he would pay for with his life.
The game ended 2-1, and within 8 days from the start of the tournament, the team was back home. Escobar was an easy target for blame, but, along with the rest of his teammates, disregarded that threat as nothing more than a joke. It is widely known that Colombia was a gruesome and violent nation in the 1980s and 90s, with drug kingpin Pablo Escobar and the Medellin cartel controlling 80% of the world's cocaine market at one point in 1989. Medellin and the nation of Colombia became notorious for being a nation built on drug trafficking. At the height of its power, the Medellin cartel brought in roughly 70 million per day. This equates to an astounding 26 billion per year.
Despite the fact that Pablo Escobar was a murderous drug lord,
Escobar went into a bar on the evening of July 1st, 1994. At 3 a.m. on the same night, he was in the parking lot when 3 men approached him. One man, Humberto Muniz, shot Escobar. It is said that as he shot Escobar, Muniz shouted, "Go!" as if to say that the shooting was punishment for Escobar's own goal against the United States. Escobar would later die in a hospital from his injuries. On the other hand, worked for a large drug cartel, and more specifically, Gayon. It is largely believed that to this day, many Colombians believe that justice has not been served, as Gayon served 15 months house arrest and Muniz was sentenced to 45 years, but got released after 11 for good behavior. This is where Pablo Escobar comes back into the picture.
Being that Pablo feverishly supported the Colombian national team, as well as Andres' club team Atletico Nacional, it's largely speculated that had he still been alive in 1994, Santiago Gallon and his cartel would never have targeted Andres Escobar in the first place. The tragic death of Andres Escobar highlights the high-strain relationship between life and the world of football. So much weight can be carried by results of a sporting event, despite the fact that at the end of the day, it is just a game that is meant to simply be enjoyed. As Andres Escobar said, in football, unlike bullfighting, there is no death. In football, no one dies, no one gets killed. It's more about the fun of it, about enjoying. Even a result as devastating as the one endured by Colombia in the 1994 World Cup should not cost the man his life, for the reason that he was simply playing the game he loved so dearly. Andres will always be remembered for being a good footballer with a bright future, as well as a wonderful man that did good things for the community. Rest in peace, Andres Escobar.
This is another video.
Yes.
Okay.
Just a second, please.
I just we want to connect because it was connected with this one just for a better sound. Yes, that one.
Okay.
No, it's not phone. Yes, connected. Now put some. That was strange.
Sofort ein Arzt auf den Platz.
Okay, it was the case linked to Monica Savage
Okay.
and injury on the continent of Germany. The man who stabbed her was declared mentally unstable and never went to jail for his actions. One slide more in this. This is the case as known as catastrophe at Heysel Stadium in Bristol. Also as known at the darkest day in football history. 39 people died and 600 were injured on this stadium. No one was responsible for everything that happened on stadium in Heysel. He said in this office. it's a sociological perspective on the violence in sport. From a sociological perspective, sport must be defined as polysemic from the Greek word polysemis. Poly, which means many, and semi, which means side, a word that has multiple meanings. I want to show some models that are spotted and developed in University of Hamburg from the Professor Klaus Heyman and General Test from the University of Florence. The competitive model, which refers to rules and results, competitive situation, shared and universal evaluation groups, organized structured competition, tournaments, championships, the own goals and result, violent areas. The next model is show model, which refers to audience and records, hyper conflicts, media filter, millions of viewers, audience with essential and more exaggerated performance, victories and records, results in doping winnings. The third model is instrumental, which refers to hedonism and myth, motivation for success, gyms, swimming pool centers, the myth of being fit, hedonism, exaggerated health, obsession, exaggerated fitness, grooming, and anxiety. Result is doping dependence. The fourth model is expressive, which refers to emotions and respect, the development competitiveness, and discovering sets of playing, of leisure time, of nature results are important but not crucial. Activities for physical and mental health. Result is values and respect. Thus, the magic for the cure for doping and violence is respect. Disrespect for oneself, confidence is doping. Disrespect for others, confidence is violence. It's a very important part, and I come in from media, from public broadcast service in Bosnia and Herzegovina, media and violence in sport. This is some of the questions which this violence in sport. What do you mean? Are negative events in sports an inspiration to the media? Of course. Because such events are the most profitable and the bring power to the media. Does media inspire people to negative behavior in sports? Also, sport has sensationalist reporting intensified violence in sports. Also, answer is yes in most cases. This is some of facts with media. Incidents and matches are mostly shared in social networks. Negative sport content is very accessible to young people. Adolescents spend about 33 hours a week online according to the UNICEF industry. This is a lot of space for negative road notice. Do you need media literacy in sport? Yes, indeed. Yes, it's needed. It's clear that the media will not be our partners in preventing in this frame the spread of incidents in sport. The media literacy only profit. It's for one example of case study, media analysis of and even with fatal consequences in sport. It's a model of the media of fans of football club Partizan from Belgrade. Alexander Stankovic was killed in October 30 in 2016. Quantitative analysis. In 8 days, the murder was a media topic 1,060 times, 79 texts in the print media, 24 articles in electronic media, 6 agency news, and more from 1,000 hosts on internet portals. It's the second part of my presentation for today, prevention of violence in sport. Sport violence occurs at several levels, includes players, coaches, inspectors, and happens outside the rules. It's at these levels the prevention action should be taken. The philanthropic consequences are to ensure that everyone understands that the line from aggressive play to violence has been crossed. Education and training, teach kids sportsmanship by embracing that sport is fun to play and that the outcome of the game is the most important aspect. Fair play campaigns use all officials.
Hello, Leos.
Yeah.
Roach, Sarajevo.
Yeah. Okay. It's a very important part. Responsible media important. The media, TV, radio, newspaper, and the internet and social media outlets have a duty to report and highlight both positive and negative effects of violence in the right way. Some of conclusion. Violence in sport can be easily stopped, but it's possible. It's difficult to prevent. Sports media are looking for profit, and profit is looking for sensationalism. What can we do? On the internet, we must start working media literacy and all stakeholders in sport. We must educate all stakeholders in sport and not accept bad role models from the media. On the other hand, we need to use the media to create positive role models in sports. Fans who celebrate sports, players who play fair play, non-violent communication in sport between coaches and referees, including and spectators.
Margaret?
It's my presentation for today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. Thanks for your attention. It's my contact if you need some additional questions. Thanks on time.
Feel free. Any questions? So I have questions for you. Of course, I always ask questions, sorry.
Just parasport, please.
Parasport, yes. And it's about para and sport. So how much para you have in Paralympic sport? No, I'm speaking now about Paralympic, but about money, so para. How much the Paralympic sports invest in security and safety for the Paralympic sports athletes?
On the global level or
okay, you can compare. You can compare global and Bosnia.
In Bosnia and Herzegovina, it's nothing. Global level is, I don't know exactly, but I know from the World Paralympic Committee that they have a program about the violence, but violence in parasport is very low. And if I remember correct, EU was the program Erasmus Plus in linked with acronym NOVIS, acronym of words No Violence in Sport. In linked with violence and sport and parasport and violence in the life.
But when you try to find examples, did you try to find any examples from the Paralympic things that happen, like for example, stabbing the knife in the...
It's not possible to find an example in parasport, violence in parasport. Okay. For the next presentation, I make it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions? Please.
So you started doing parasports in Bosnia, I don't know, you said how many years ago, but do you think the situation has improved from when you started to this point? Has anything changed? Or?
Yeah, now the situation much better. We have clubs, we have the much better organized Paralympic committee. We have a lot of awareness for Paralympic sports. Colleagues maybe better to know about the summer sports. I'm special and I'm expert in winter sports. But definitely the situation is too much better in the now from the when we start before, I don't know exactly, let's say 30 years. Thank you.
I have a question. What are the main difficulties that you face when you decide to start doing sports after you? Was it the money or the lack of the equipment?
Sorry,
Difficulties, the main difficulties.
That you face.
I know answer. It's very good question, but out of my knowledge.
Out of my box.
It's joke. It's joke. Glavne poteškoće koje su bile.
Ja, da, kad si počeo poslije rata od sporta? Je bio novac ili oprema?
The main problem for me was inadequate prosthesis for my leg. I'm broke. I don't know. Let's say 70 my legs on my prosthesis in that period. In that period exists just sitting volleyball. I start with skiing and I was one and only. That's made difficult without the trainer, without the condition trainer, without some of condition. We have great infrastructure, but it's not possible skiing for disabled person. Now the situation is too much better. We have sports in sitting ski. We have sportsmen in skiing on the one leg, etc.
Who are the coaches and trainers now in these clubs? Do you have like special clubs for people with disabilities?
Just one special club, just disability club.
Just your club.
Yeah.
It's still just your club.
Yeah, for skiing.
Yeah, for skiing.
Yeah, and
we signed
yeah.
one project with
Yes.
them, but that's all. We tried to. I'm one of the coaches for para swimming, so that's why he said I'm from summer sports. I coach swimming and para swimming, and we last year or the year before we.
Last year doesn't exist. The year before.
I don't remember, 2019, I think. We tried for one project for UNDP, we tried to do skiing, but it's hard, but it's really hard because you have people with one leg, with one prosthetic, without the legs. In water, it's different. You can manage to do things in water, but on the field, it's
Yeah, but when you compare now what she's speaking and what you're saying, how much the country investing in you as only one club trying to do something with athletes?
I have no one project financed by Bosnia and Herzegovina. Also, situation with qualified trainer is terrible.
Yeah.
I'm only studying instructor in Bosnia and Herzegovina without the leg. We need education and practical education.
Yeah.
Of course, we need theoretical, but practical education out of Bosnia and Herzegovina is what we need.
Imagine putting 2 or 3 kids
On skills.
on skis, which has like mental disability like autism or something like that. It's hard thing. You need to learn them how to walk, how to act. Then you put some things on their legs and they don't know anything. And you need to learn them how to walk, how to make an A to stop or something like that. Turn left, turn right. It's hard for typical kids, typical people, for us, not for people with mental disabilities. So much more for people with physical. So.
Thank you.
Yes,
please.
Thanks a lot, my dear Joanna, and it's my opportunity to speak today for
This is now not Joanna, it's for her. Joanna next time.
But I'm happy to have you.
No, but when I said that you will come, everybody was happy.
Yeah.
So, any other questions, guys? Please, Rui.
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. That's me really deep story of your life, and I'm sure you are a great example for positive and for the sporting. Thank you. A short question about you talked about the conclusions that it's important to change the media, the news about this kind of violence in sport. We know this is all over the world, not just here in Bosnia for sure. The media gives more importance to bad news than the positive news. Every time there is some things like you show in these videos, it opened the news always with this, and sport results, for example, go at the end of the news. So the mindset, it's important to change, but this is how the society is asking for the news. They like it to see bad things, I think so. So we have to change rules and to change mentalities, but I'm sure it's not easy to do something like this. It's important to give new information for coaches, athletes, change behaviors, but also for the persons in communication. So I think all persons in sports, we cannot just say this is wrong, this is not correct. We must work together. When I say this, I was responsible for technical director in National Federation, also technical advisor in the Olympic Committee. It's important to work together with us, persons from the media, and together we can change things. Just say you are wrong, you make bad work, that won't change anything. I just want to listen to your opinion about it.
I work in media. In my opinion, media must produce too much more radio and TV content to prevent of violence. In this time, we don't have any content for. I speak in the name of public broadcast service in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We don't have any content in relation with violence on prevention of violence in sport. It's my opinion. We need too much more content for prevent for the bad situation, like you said, and I mean that's a way how to fix it.
But when you think about media, how much the media promote Paralympic sports in Bosnia?
The first time in history, the public broadcast service in Bosnia and Herzegovina is from the Paralympic Games in Tokyo.
This time,
yes,
for the first time.
First time.
It was one match or two.
All match Paralympic team in sitting volleyball in Bosnia and Herzegovina. From Paralympic Games. If I remember correct, too early was in Europe Championship, one match in sitting volleyball. I don't know exactly, let's say.
I think we're second place.
Yeah.
For third place.
Okay.
But this year, first one.
Yeah. Only summer sport, without the winter. winter sports is not never on the public service.
Yeah, but I'm now the one of the only one like the participant for one JICA program. I think everybody follows on Facebook when I posted. It's program for the trainers, for teaching kids and young people with disability sports. And I'm passing this program from Japanese. And even for them, the Paralympic sports wasn't popular at all. And they didn't have so much Paralympics before they announced that Tokyo will be hosting the Paralympic Games. So in the last 4 or 5 years, the popularity of the Paralympic sports in Japan increased so much. They said like over 300% more because the people saw the opportunities, because even them didn't promote so much. Of course, but then the name of the Paralympics came to Tokyo, everybody was thinking about that, and everybody started to compete and try to find a way to be part of Paralympic Games. Maybe we need some big happening here that we maybe start to promote more and to have some, I don't know, more content or whatever. So I don't know. Now when you mention this, it's unbelievable to say that you're the only club who do something with the winter sports and nobody's promoting this. So how some child or kid can know about you? If you didn't come here and say, I think maybe you never heard about him and you're from Bosnia.
Oh no.
So, and this is like the issue. So the people in Bosnia don't know about you and your club, and maybe there is a lot of kids with disabilities or even older people who would like to learn how to ski and they don't know about you.
We need more marketing.
Yeah, this is like we need more money to have marketing.
More awareness, maybe.
More
Awareness, more everything.
Yeah, but more awareness is not awareness of a problem if you don't know.
Yeah.
This is like questions? Katya, do you have questions?
No, sorry. We're just no, 1 minute.
Yes.
I think the switch comes when you organize, as Japanese did, we organize some event for disabled people. So this is first step. You can gain, I guess, money to organize some big event competition.
Maybe big is
Because I was before in Japan and we talked about how Japan have this awareness in general.
Yeah.
So I don't know why. Maybe because of the atom bombs in there, or I don't know, because a lot of generation were disabled and they had to do something with them. And in Bosnia, the same catastrophe happened. So this is opportunity maybe for also gain money to raise funds and organize some event.
Yeah, but
of course, money is
it's not easy. It's not easy even for Balkans. I'm somebody who leads a lot of projects. And I think if you are leading organization in Balkans for sport projects, it's very hard because we're not program countries for the European projects. Even last night we were speaking with UEFA representatives. It's even for their programs we have some limitation. For everything what we're doing we have limitation. It's very hard. That's why when he said that you don't have any support of the country, it's like it's impossible to do something with a country inside of the country without any support. And the programs is very limited. And he is only one in Bosnia, but he's not only one in Europe. And when you apply projects or try to get the grants, he's not the only one. He's in Bosnia, but not in Europe. But you're asking money from the Europe. And it's different because
I know that Japan has 5 foundation, government foundation, and I don't know how many private funds for this kind of, just for disabled persons.
Clubs.
And also the sports for all, they invest a lot of money.
Dino please.
I would like to introduce myself. My name is Dino. I'm from Bosnia, from Sarajevo. I'm the owner of a sports agency called Dino. We are providing a lot of services for sports clubs. I believe that a lot of our sports representatives. So I would like to ask you just to raise your hands. how many of you have a communication officer in your club or your organization? One communication officer
We
or
have
team for
media responsible, we're not calling it communication officer.
this is one of the topics that is very important because of this non-violence thing. When something happens, media is watching from the other side and they are creating content. Let's say football match, they see something and it's like a bad thing. And they would do something, take that photo, take that news and create themselves. What you need to do like organization, you need to communicate. It's the most important thing. And we have a lot of problems with that. Because if we don't communicate, they can say whatever they want. But if you're speaking in front of your organization, you are like standing for yourself. You are defending yourself. So it's very important thing. And the other thing about this awareness and stuff and everything, media are lazy today because a lot of what works with media, they are lazy. They are waiting just for news. Every day it's happened a lot of things. We are in this conference and we're switching our Facebook, Instagrams, a lot of news. Our brain cannot process that much news. So what do we need to do? We need to connect with media. They need to kako se kao poznato malo bolje?
No.
They need to know us. Because if I'm sending this news for this conference and they don't know me, they will probably see, this is some conference in Sarajevo, but what I do, I have contacts. So you need to get contacts from media. I can make a news, make photos, make videos, and send it to media. And after that, I need to take my phone and call them. I send you everything. You just need to copy and paste it. But please do it, put it. And that's the way how you can communicate. That's the way how you can raise awareness about your sport, about your organization, about everything. I think that doesn't matter are you in Bosnia, or Bulgaria, or Italy, or whatever. You need to connect and communicate in all those ways. Thank you.
And maybe if I can add, it was very good what you pointed out. In our case, the person that is responsible for the media relationship is a journalist. That is a journalist from the practice. Everyone knows him from the media, and this is his part-time job. He has his full job in the media, but he knows the colleagues, he knows how to write, he knows the approach, and he knows what we are doing because he's with us at the beginning. So it's the best combination that we can have. And another thing that I'm always adding, 24 hours after the event, you're not news anymore. So if you don't send your press release in 24 hours, other news are coming, so you're not important anymore. That's why I'm always pushing at each event, please group picture, because I already have the press release for this meeting from before I came here. So I just need a group picture to send it to the colleague that is responsible for the media. He's touching in a media way to sound better because I'm not able to write the content as they like it, and we're just
the external speakers, they are not paid for this. Okay, so thank you so much. Before lunch, we will have Jovana, because we have Joanna, we have Jovana. She will finish with her presentation as well now before lunch, because we can maybe make it shorter today, because Turkish people want to go to drink chai in Bachoshi. So we will have one more speaker until lunch, so then we will have lunch at the same, and then we will start at the time that we will finish 1 hour, 1.5 hours before, then we plan. So everything is the same, we'll just move in the front. Is it okay? Perfect. Can you put just the flash drive inside?
Just a second.
No, it's not.
All right. This time for
So, who is Giovanna? Maybe she'll present herself better than I can. So wait, just to have her in a stream. So she's important now, not me. 1 second. Yes. So she will maybe now speak a little bit more about professional side of physiology or psychology of the violence in the sport, because she has more than 10 years of experience in this field. She was practicing the 10 years of the rhythmic gymnastics, and she was the coach as well, so she had the professional side of the sports as well, but she had professional knowledge about psychology. So she'll now speak more about the psychology and the violence in sports, so I think that this professional approach is very nice that we know more, so take it forward and enjoy.
Thank you. I'm really privileged to be here, and thank you for the invitation. I will talk now a little bit about psychological view on violence. And before I start with today's topic, I'll just briefly tell you more about myself. So I was competing in rhythmic gymnastics for 10 years, and I really enjoyed all the competitions and gymnastics in general. When I was 18, I decided to my career. There are two reasons for that. One is that when you are 18 in gymnastics, you are kind of a grandma. And the other thing is that I kind of reached all my goals. I had the best result in the country, and I just didn't saw any other motivation. And looking now from this point, if I had sports psychologist back then, I'm sure I would continue my career for a few more years. When I was 18, I stopped doing gymnastics, but I realized that sport is part of my life and that I cannot just stop with the sport. So I became a coach, and I was coaching for next few years, 2 groups of gymnasts, and also I was giving one-on-one gymnastic classes. And I studied psychology here at University of Sarajevo, and after finishing my master's degree in psychology, I decided to work more with athletes, and really during my career as an athlete, but also as a coach, I saw how much I needed sports psychologists here. And now I really want to help athletes, coaches, and also parents of young athletes how to bring best out of them, and also how to have the healthy environment and keep their mental health good. During the pandemic, I opened a page on social media called Sportum, where I want to present sports psychology and just emphasize the importance of sports psychology. Okay, now back to the topic. I want to start this presentation with one quote. It says, outside of wartime, sport is perhaps the only setting in which acts of interpersonal aggression are not only tolerated, but enthusiastically applauded by large segments of supporting them, and also how they get involved in violence. And the first part of the presentation, I will talk more about violence on the field among athletes. Psychologists say that we have 2 types of violence between players. One of them is spontaneous. Spontaneous outbursts. That's spontaneous. Spontaneous outbursts. That's when just players spontaneously show violence. Maybe that's part of the sport, but also maybe they feel so much like bad emotion or something, and they just want to show that loudly. One example is that I'm just thinking now of it. It's Novak Djokovic now in the Olympics, when he just started throwing stuff around. That was spontaneous outburst. He didn't want to harm anyone, but just he had to do something about all the bad energy that he has. Then the second thing is the violence that is planned. That is the violence when else, and that is the violence that we don't want to see in sport, and we need to prevent that and also teach athletes and coaches and also the audience that is better, that we don't want to see that in sport. Some sports are more violent than the others. We have contact sports like soccer, American football, ice hockey, boxing, wrestling, water polo, where we see a lot of violence, and they involve certain levels of physical violence. But there's one, they have and penalties for if someone is not doing the right thing. And what is important is that coaches show what is the difference between good violence and something that is part of sport, but also on the other side, what is the violence that it's not okay and that it's harming others. And it's really important that athletes know the border, what is good and what is bad. And one thing of violence is aggression, and we have two types of aggression. One is instrumental and one is hostile. The first one, that's the form of aggression that we see in sport as a part of the sport. Sometimes to win in some sports, you need to show some kind of aggression. Some examples are blocking out the defenders for a rebound in basketball or making a tackle in football. So we need aggression there. But the hostile one is the one that we don't want to see in sport. And that aggression is designed to harm an opponent. And that's never acceptable in sports. If we compare these two types of aggression, the first one is each athlete's that. But on the other side, we have aggression that's causing direct harm. And we need to tell to athletes that that's not okay, but also to have some consequences. And someone was today already talking about consequences. I think Rasha did, that coaches need to tell what are the consequences for bad behavior, but also once they say what are the consequences, they need to act according to that. So that when the first thing happens, they say, oh, next time when it happens, you will have consequences. No, make consequences as soon as possible. And why all of this violence is in sport? Where does it come from? There are a lot of theories why there is violence in sport. One of the theory is that it comes from frustration. So people say all the frustration that athletes have, that because of that they are violent. There are many research on that, and on the end, the result is that frustration. It doesn't matter how the frustration is. What frustration is about? Is it due to losing, not playing well, being hurt, or etc.? Important is that all athletes, when they experience frustration, all of them want to be violent. But some of them know how to cope with frustration. So frustration, it's not the only thing that causes bad behaviors. The second theory is who are our opponents. Sometimes violence comes because our opponents. Maybe we played with them before and we have some history with them. So players come already with so much aggression and frustration to the match, and they will be more violent in those matches. One of the theories is the score. When maybe someone is losing just by 1 point and they are frustrated because soon they will lose, they become more violent because they want to win at all costs. So, just as I said, some athletes want to win at all costs. Even some coaches are really inspiring athletes to win at all costs, and that is actually really bad. Why it's bad? Because a lot of athletes will be more violent and they will be aggressive just to win. And actually, winning is not the most important thing in sport, and that's what I'm always teaching athletes. To win doesn't mean anything. The better thing to focus on is personal improvement and their own performance. So for example, one athlete, if we take, for example, soccer, one club can play against some club that is not famous at all, they are not good at all, and they will win. But the club played really badly, and but they won, they are happy, they won. Then on the other side, they can play with the most famous club in the world, and they will lose, and maybe they can be sad because they lost the game. But actually, maybe their performance was really good. They improved from their last game. So actually, that's the thing that they should focus on. Not the result, but personal improvement and their own performance. And one really, really important thing, can I go one slide back? Sorry. Thank you. One really important thing, maybe one of the two most important things that I will say today, so you can remember this. We have circles of control in our life, and this is in sports, but also in all areas of life. This green circle is things what we can control in our lives. So we can control our thoughts, our actions, our emotions, our motivation, our behavior, so all things that we can control. Then the yellow circle is things that we can partly control. So like a result, we can control it from our side, how we will perform, but then there is other side, opponents, so we don't know how good they are. This circle is like things that we can partly control. And this red circle is all things that we cannot control at all. For example, weather. On Saturday you have a game, you cannot control if it will be raining or if it will be sunny, or you cannot control who will your opponents be or stuff like that. And why I'm saying this, it's really important that we focus on things that we can control. And like violence in the sport, we can easily say, oh, today Russia talked about some violence in Slovenia, in judo, and we can say, oh, they should do that, they should have more, education, they should do that, but what we will do in our country, in our club, in our surrounding, and that's what's important. What somebody else is doing is in our red circle, but what we are doing is in green, and we should focus on things that we can change and we can do, starting from ourselves. So how I can not be violent, how I can do things that will help others also not to be violent. And maybe if I see coach being violent to another athlete, what I can do, what is my part in that? So remember that change starts from you, and that we should focus on things that we can control and not focus on things that other people do and what we cannot control. So that's the one thing that I want you to remember from this presentation. And for sport, it's really important for athletes to know how to control their emotions, because frustration will come. They will have like a lot of aggression maybe, or they will be mad after losing the game. But it is important to know how to control your emotions. And I'll tell a little bit more about controlling emotions on the end of my presentation. Then there was big questions. We see so much violence in sport, but are athletes more violent than non-athletes? And actually, research showed that athletes are not more violent than non-athletes, and that's why we see also violence in the stands among fans. And that's the second part of the presentation that I want to talk more about. It's we see violence even among fans. So sometimes we think, oh, that's maybe a new thing. Today we see more and more aggression and more violence, but actually it's not a new thing. Even back in 532, we have parades that happened on the chariot race, and so the violence among spectators is really old. So what triggers bad behaviors in sport? By people who watch the sport. There are a few theories. One theory is social identity theory, because all people have basic needs to belong to a group. Is that maybe a sport club or some, I don't know, society, or people want to belong. And some people choose to belong to some teams, clubs, they are fans and they are supporting some teams. And membership in these groups provides a basis for social identification and self-esteem. And that's why people, when maybe someone tells something bad about the club that they are fans of, or if someone is violent to some of the athletes from that club, that's why people have maybe some kind of aggression and violence, because they feel that they are also, they are talking something bad about themselves also. Second theory is attitudes of fun prior to match. What we all live our lives, we go to job, to I don't know, school. And things that apply